I brought my non-metalhead girlfriend to her first ever metal concert. Here's how it went. 'Cause you got a taste now, drink the Kool-Aid. The concert in question that we went to was Bring Me the Horizon's Next Gen World Tour, and it was actually the final leg of the entire world tour. So Dublin was the last show. It was in the 3 Arena venue, and Ollie Sykes himself actually came on stage during the show towards the end and said that they'd only anticipated to sell about 4,000 tickets and there was 11,000 people there. For context, the capacity of the arena is 13,000, so if they're only anticipating to sell 4,000, I don't understand why it was in the 3 Arena in the first place. But anyway, huge crowd for a very big performance, which we will get into. So not only was I very excited to finally see Bring Me play live, I also was able to bring my girlfriend along with me to allow her to experience her first ever metal show. Now, I've already mentioned that she is not a metalhead by any stretch of the imagination. I figured at the very least she would appreciate the performative aspect, the production of the show, and just the atmosphere in general. So got to the arena at about 25 past 7 after having a couple of drinks and food in and around the arena. We were only really there to see Bad Omens and then Bring Me the Horizon, to be honest. That's who I was there for. So we arrived just before Bad Omens went on stage, which was actually really perfect timing. I thought we were going to be late at one point, but ended up making it about 15-20 minutes before they started their set, and my god, were they heavy. I'm well aware that Bad Omens are the band that wrote tracks like Dethrone, which is a ridiculously heavy track and one of my favorite songs by them, but just because of how their career has gone after they released this album, The Death of Peace of Mind, which, don't get me wrong, has a lot of heavy moments in it, what got them popular on TikTok for the most part and brought in the massive fan base that they have nowadays is their poppy stuff, their melodic stuff, Noah's singing vocals. Like, that's been what's brought this band to the level where they're now touring with Bring Me the Horizon throughout Europe, when they're a band from America that was always considered a knockoff or copycat band of Bring Me the Horizon. So I knew that they were really, really heavy, but at the same time, I think my brain's just been programmed to associate Bad Omens with being that sexy metal band nowadays that is really melodic and doesn't focus on the heavy stuff anymore. But my god, was I wrong. I was thinking that this would be the perfect band to introduce my girlfriend to the live scenario, but then I was kind of looking at her throughout the show because I loved it, but man, were they heavy. I knew the tracks that were going to be played beforehand because I'd seen the set list, but everything was just hitting so hard, and they had a real dark stage presence. Like, obviously they wear the masks, the balaclavas. My girlfriend wasn't the biggest fan of them. That was pretty fair to say. Also, I will give her credit. If I was to do this again, I would definitely buy standing or seated tickets as opposed to standing tickets, especially if you are bringing a significant other or a friend that you're trying to get into metal, because my girlfriend's pretty small. I'm not a tall guy at all. She's significantly smaller than me. And I was kind of struggling to see a lot what was going on stage. And like I said at the start, the production elements of the show, which I thought at the very least would be something that she could appreciate even if she doesn't like the music, they were kind of null and void for Bad Omens set because we couldn't, or she couldn't see what was happening. So not only did she not like how heavy everything was because Bad Omens like really brought it, also she couldn't even at least take in the production. So that is a big tip for me if you are someone who's trying to get like a partner or a friend into metal and you want to get them a ticket to go and see a band. I would just buy seated tickets because you can just take in the whole show and you don't have to be like standing for the whole thing, which obviously if you're not enjoying yourself in general makes the show drag a little bit more if you're just standing around. So yeah, highlight of the Bad Omens set for me was the outro, which they played Dethrone, and not only is it just a fantastic song to outro a set with, they also played an extended version of it where the ending riff just kept getting repeated and kept getting heavier and slower.
I'm in danger!
That was the first song I heard by Bad Omens, so it was a little bit nostalgic for me, but also great to see that not only are they the TikTok sexy band, but I'd say a lot of people were surprised in the crowd who probably just got involved for their latest album with a lot of the singing vocals to be blasted by Dethroned for a final track. It was an encore track as well. They went off stage and then they came back with that and they just absolutely smashed it. But yeah, that was Bad Omens. So after a ropey start with Bad Omens being way heavier than I anticipated from a live scenario standpoint. Hello, Mowgli, moving around. Did you just wake up? What's going on, bro? I was a little bit worried going into Bring Me. I was like, okay, Bring Me, I know the set list. I know which tracks are on the set list. But everything just sounds heavier in a live scenario for the most part, because obviously there's big speakers, the live instruments, everything's very distorted, there's a lot of screaming. I was worried. So I don't even really know where to start with the production of the show from a very, first bullet point of how good these guys were live. It was mental. Ireland is the last show on the world tour, so I'd had plenty of videos from the rest of the tour beforehand being fed to me where I could see everyone raving about how good the show was, how good the performance was, how good the production was, that it's the best production they've ever seen. So I had really, really high expectations, and a lot of the time when you hear how good something is constantly, you set your expectations at a ridiculous level that they're just not going to be surpassed, and Bring Me genuinely surpassed it. I won't say it's the best production I've ever seen, because I've been to a lot of big EDM shows that have been absolutely mental, and I do think metal is still a little bit behind the levels that EDM takes it to. Eric Prydz is probably the best performance I've ever seen from a production standpoint, but Bring Me is a close second, I would reckon, which is saying a lot for a metal band that is niche compared to these dance music and EDM events. The production from a crew standpoint was the best I've ever seen. Like, that aspect of it, they had a live production crew working on a film set, essentially, where they were broadcasting the show from a live standpoint to the front of house screens so that you could see everyone in the crowd. You were getting different shots of the band members on stage. They have people in the crowd being shown on screen. I'd never seen anything like that before, so that was huge to me. I can't help but feel so anxious when I'm at these events, when I see this production happening, because just from a video background and a YouTube background, when I'm live streaming, I get worried about one of my cameras turning off. So I can only imagine in a live scenario the work that it takes to go into making all of that come together, and not only just work, but to run as smoothly and as seamlessly as it did. I was very consciously looking out for something to go wrong, and I was waiting for something to go wrong, because that's just how my brain works as someone who streams and makes videos and stuff. There's always technical issues somewhere, and nothing went wrong. It was mental how smooth everything ran. The band themselves sounded absolutely insane, and not only that as well, another positive is my girlfriend, who obviously hated Bad Omens, started to perk up a little bit, and I could see that she was enjoying the theatrics of the actual show in and of itself. So I've never seen anything like it from a metal standpoint. The performances across the board, I can't actually express how good they were, and I feel bad for some of the countries that don't get to see these bands, which is why it was such a big deal for me to see them for the first time, because again, I knew the production was going to be insane, but man, actually seeing them in the flesh was mental. And there was some really fine-tuned, classy moments that I'm only kind of remembering now, but they had moments where Eve, who was the robotic announcer that came up on the screen as this next gen character, would speak to Ollie kind of inadvertently, and then Ollie would speak to the crowd, and then sometimes Eve would speak to the crowd. So there was a lot of engaging moments like that. But one thing that stood out to me, and this was a really nice touch, I thought, was that Eve was kind of using some Irish catchphrases. I can't remember exactly what she said, but there was something that was very clearly designed specifically for the Dublin show. Now, I don't know, maybe you guys can let me know in the comments if you went to say some of the shows in the UK or whatever country that Bring Me have played in. Did they have a moment where there was a fine-tuned moment in the production that was very specific to the city or country? Because there was a moment where, again, I wish I could remember, maybe someone who was at the Irish show can let me know in the comments, but there was a very clear moment where Eve was saying something in an Irish accent, or just the way in which someone would say something. It was Irish slang that wouldn't be used anywhere else. So there was really fun, fine-tuned moments that could easily have not been put in there, but it was, again, just such devil in the detail with this whole thing, which was absolutely insane. Then it was just really engaging in general. There was moments where the crowd got to perform some of the parts that will potentially be on the album, where Eve came on and asked Ollie to get the crowd to record a moment for a chant vocal on their upcoming album, which, again, who knows which performance they're actually going to use for that actual raw recording. But just to say that you might have a chance of being on their album just for going to one of their shows was a really, really cool, creative, engaging way to get the fans involved. Also, Ollie just seemed like he was in a really good headspace. You could probably give them a pass on just going through the motions for their last show on an entire world tour. But the band like gave it their all from what I could see anyway. There was no sign of fatigue or, you know, them just going through the motions or just not mentally being there. They really seemed locked in, really enjoying themselves. Loads of nice little moments with the crowd interacting back and forth. So small things like that, I think everyone in attendance can really appreciate. And from a performance standpoint, my favorite track of the night after Dethrone would probably be Antivist. I would actually say Dethrone was probably a better moment for me. I don't know, it just hit so hard. But Antivist, again, with Noah Sebastian from Bad Omens. Noah came on stage to perform Antivist with Ollie Sykes, and his vocal cadence is just so good. It just ripped through the mix so clearly. Ollie's got a great voice, don't get me wrong, and he does the singing stuff really, really good. But Noah is on a different level, in my opinion, from a vocal standpoint. His technique is so good, and his cadence is just like designed for that live performance. He sounds so good as the actual like studio versions of some of the tracks off of this album. And then of course on Antivist, he just added a whole different flair to that track. That's already a fantastic track. He just added so much to it. So that was probably my favorite performative moments of the entire night. It was so good. But yeah, in terms of bringing my girlfriend along, that was a unique experience for me. Again, she'd never been to a show, I'd never been to one of their shows, but I'd also never brought someone along with me, so I didn't really know what to expect. And I think she's pretty like 50-50 on it. I think she could really appreciate the performative aspect, but the one thing I really kind of wish I had done was got seated tickets. And I'd love to do it again at some point when a band comes to town that I think she'll kind of enjoy, because to be fair, a lot of Bad Omen stuff and Bring Me stuff is quite accessible for someone who's not into metal. For the most part, there's definitely a lot of tracks that she could get involved with. But I think just because we were standing, her being so small, not really being able to see what's going on apart from like the confetti being shot up and some of the flames and all the pyrotechnics, you know, she couldn't really get involved too much. So I think if I'm ever going to do it again, I would definitely choose to go seated. But also, to be honest, for myself as well, it's not even just to accommodate her. I think I would nearly prefer to sit up top. I sat up top in the same venue for Slipknot before, and part of me wanted to go down below, but now I don't know what that noise just was. But anyway, apart from like being up there, when you're up there you kind of want to go down, but then when you're down there you're like, okay, it's not actually that great here unless you're like 6'8", because you can't really see much. I'm not a tall guy at all, so I couldn't really like get the gist of what was happening. And I was also very conscious of my girlfriend being beside me, and like I was always trying to move to a position where she could see. So I think it would just be a lot more chilled in general if we were up top. So that would be a big, you know, pointer for anyone who's out there that is considering doing this with their, again, friend or, you know, partner. Just get a seated ticket for the first show and enjoy yourself. You can chill out, have a drink, see everything that's happening. You don't miss anything. It's just a better perspective, in my opinion. But if you want to get involved in the pit and everything, then obviously standings for you. But that was my opinion of the Bring Me the Horizon live show in Dublin, Ireland. Let me know if you're there. Leave a like in the video if you enjoy this style of content. I just kind of ramble with some bullet points and just go wherever my brain takes me. So I hope you enjoy this style, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm signing out. Look after yourselves. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.